That's not possible. Garrett Thorne's voice struggled to rise above the airport announcements as he locked eyes with the group across the terminal. Leanna Westbrook halted in her tracks, her hand instinctively grasping the shoulder of the nearest teenager, one of 4 identical boys encircling her. Their blonde hair and blue eyes reflected Garrett's own. "Mom, is something bothering you? What are you looking at?" one of the boys asked, tracking her eyes. Garrett moved with deliberate grace, the sound of his high-end shoes echoing softly on the gleaming floor of San Francisco International Airport. The delay of his Tokyo flight was now insignificant. The multimillion-dollar acquisition deal slipped away from his thoughts. "Leanna," he said, pausing a few feet away. "These are our sons," she interjected, her voice unwavering despite her ashen complexion. "Garrett, these are Drew, Caleb, Liam, and Jesse." The tallest boy moved forward with a sense of guardianship. "You are Garrett Thorne," he stated. It was not a question. Garrett felt his phone buzz in his pocket, likely a message from his assistant Priya, curious about his absence from the first-class lounge. He chose to ignore it, captivated by the 4 faces that unmistakably mirrored his own from years past. "I believe it's time for a conversation," Leanna proposed, her eyes scanning the bustling terminal. "There's a restaurant near Gate 32. 10 minutes later, they found themselves at a corner table, enveloped in an uncomfortable silence. Garrett shifted his gaze between the 2 boys, struggling to comprehend the scene before him. "For at once," he finally said, "I have quadruplets. How is this possible? I found out I was pregnant in January 2010, just 2 weeks after moving to Copenhagen," Leanna shared. The doctors referred to it as spontaneous monozygotic quadruplets, a single egg that divided multiple times, with odds of 1 in 700,000. "You were 8 weeks along when you left," Garrett calculated aloud. "December 2009, their final month together, just before everything shifted. I attempted to reach you. I altered my number when I relocated to New York," Garrett recalled. "But 15 years, Leanna? You could have found me." 15 years and 4 months, one of the boys corrected. "Liam," Garrett thought. "We entered this world on July 14th, 2010. "Too soon," Leanna interjected. "At 32 weeks. It was a precarious situation for a time." Garrett struggled to envision Leanna in Denmark, bearing for children, then nurturing them without his presence. The idea spun in his mind. "Mum never kept anything from us about you," Drew declared, the most vocal among them. "We've always known who our father was. Last year, we did a project on your solar storage technology," added Caleb, the more reserved one with contemplative eyes. "I believed I was making the right choice," Leanna stated. "You were busy launching your startup, putting in 20-hour days. You always claimed you had no desire for children. That was before I discovered I had them." Garrett's voice elevated before he reined it in. "When did you return to the States?" "When they were 5 in 2015. I secured a role at the research center in Portland," Leanna shared. "The Danish medical community aimed to continue their research on them. They are exceptionally uncommon. I didn't want them to be raised as subjects of study." Jesse, who had remained quiet until now, finally voiced his thoughts. "Why is any of this significant at this point? We've managed just fine without him for 15 years. Garrett's phone buzzed once more. The meeting in Tokyo held significant importance. The Japanese company had its limits on patience. 15 years of unwavering dedication had transformed him into a figure of wealth, respect, and intimidation within the realm of business. He had always been present for every significant meeting. "I'm heading to Tokyo as well," he remarked, glancing at the bags next to them. "Conference. Climate Adaptation Summit," Leanna acknowledged with a nod. "I'm presenting research." Garrett glanced at his 4 sons, and an unexpected feeling stirred within him. 15 years filled with birthdays, first steps, school events, now just memories. His empire abruptly seemed empty. He took out his phone and swiftly typed a message to Priya. "Cancel Tokyo. Urgent family matter. We need to reschedule everything, Priya replied without hesitation. The board will revolt. The Japanese have gathered together. Handle it? He typed back, then glanced at the family he had just found. I want to know my sons, he stated plainly. If that's possible. Liana's expression became gentler. We'll be passing through Portland tomorrow. Maybe you could come by? I'll be on that flight, Garrett declared, making yet another choice that would have seemed impossible just a day prior. My meetings can wait. As the final boarding call resonated through the terminal, Garrett observed the five of them collecting their things. A decade and a half apart, suddenly bridged by a serendipitous meeting at the airport. Tomorrow then, Liana said. Tomorrow, Garrett observed, his gaze following his identical sons as they moved away, stealing occasional glances back at the unfamiliar figure who was their father. So you found yourself in a hospital room by yourself, in an unfamiliar country, while they were in the NICU? Garrett inquired, his gaze fixed on the photo album laid out on Liana's kitchen table in Portland. The pictures depicted 4 tiny infants, connected by tubes and wires to various machines. Liana stood next to them, her expression a mix of exhaustion and resolve. Not entirely solitary. My parents flew over when I told them, Liana said, turning the page to reveal an elderly couple cradling the babies. They remained for half a year. It was March 2nd, just 3 days following their meeting at the airport. Garrett had settled into the Nines Hotel downtown, putting his entire agenda on hold indefinitely, a decision that left his executive team grappling to understand. The boys were in the hospital for 8 weeks, Liana continued. Jesse was the tiniest, weighing only 3 pounds. Text, the doctors weren't sure he'd make it. Garrett looked up to see Jesse leaning against the doorframe, listening. The quietest of the 4, he'd been the most distant since Garrett's arrival. But I did, Jesse said flatly. Mom ensured it. Liana beamed at her son. They returned on different days as they regained their strength. By September 2010, we had finally gathered in my cozy Copenhagen apartment. How did you manage? Garrett inquired, a look of genuine astonishment on his face. For babies, Liana remarked, the quality of Danish childcare is outstanding, and the Research Institute accommodated my schedule with ease. It wasn't easy, but we made it work. Garrett flipped to the next page, his eyes landing on 4 identical toddlers dressed in matching sweaters. When did you start noticing their different personalities? Almost immediately, Liana chuckled. Drew was perpetually in motion, even as an infant. Caleb observed it all. Liam arranged his toys even before he learned to walk. And Jesse? I was the loudest, Jesse interjected. You experienced emotions profoundly, Liana amended softly. Why Copenhagen? Garrett inquired. The research position, I recall. But after you discovered the babies, it was safer, Liana replied after a moment of reflection. Safer than what? Than being near you, she confessed. Your company was experiencing significant growth. The media was tracking your every step. I didn't want the boys to become a spectacle. Tech Wunderkind's unexpected quadruplet reveal, and the healthcare professionals were already far too invested. Natural identical quadruplets are exceptionally uncommon. They sought to learn all there was to know about them. So you shielded them, Garrett understood. I tried. The front door swung open, and the other 3 boys tumbled in from school. They halted abruptly, spotting Garrett at the table. I see you're still around, Drew remarked. I am, Garrett affirmed with a nod. Your mom's been showing me baby pictures. Caleb placed his backpack on the ground. Did she show you the newspaper clipping? The Danish Science Journal was interested in featuring us on the cover. I declined, Liana added. That's partly why we moved back to the States when they were 5. Too much attention. What about you? Liam inquired of Garrett. What were you doing while we were growing up? Garrett paused thoughtfully. Creating Thorn Innovations. 16-hour days, every day of the week. I created the energy storage technology that enhanced the company's worth, then ventured into sustainable infrastructure. We understand, Drew stated. We've done our research on you. Did you ever consider starting a family? Jesse asked suddenly. The question lingered, suspended in the atmosphere. Garrett weighed the option of deceit but ultimately chose honesty. No, he confessed. I dedicated my full attention to the organization. I went on dates here and there, but nothing that really mattered. Nothing that made me rethink my decisions. At least you're being truthful, Jesse murmured. What happens now? Caleb inquired. You have found out about our existence. Is this just a fleeting experience before you return to your everyday reality? Garrett glanced at Leanna before turning his attention back to the boys. I'd like to get to know you all if you'll allow me. I've lost 15 years. I can't reclaim that time, but moving ahead. Moving ahead to what? Drew pressed. I'm not sure yet, Garrett admitted. But I'm staying in Portland for now. I've arranged to work remotely. His phone buzzed again, the 15th time that hour. Valencia Martinez, his COO, was handling the Tokyo situation. But the board was demanding answers about his sudden absence. Your company requires your presence, Leanna noted. They'll manage, Garrett said, ending the call. At this moment, this feels more crucial. The boys shared knowing looks. The unspoken bond of twins who had experienced life side by side. We have homework, Liam declared, and the four teenagers ascended the stairs, leaving Garrett and Leanna in the quiet company of the photo albums. They're extraordinary, Garrett murmured, reflecting on the recorded existence he had overlooked. You did an incredible job, Leanna. They handled most of the work themselves, she smiled, turning to a page that displayed 4 identical 7-year-olds with science fair ribbons. They have consistently motivated one another to improve. I wish I'd known, Garrett said, a hollow feeling spreading in his chest. I should have been there. Would you have been, though? Leanna inquired softly. Seriously. The question hung in the air, honest yet unanswerable. Upstairs, the muted sounds of their sons filled the space as they talked about the newcomer who had unexpectedly entered their lives, speculating on whether he intended to remain. You drop your shoulder before you kick, Garrett shouted from the sidelines of the soccer field. That's why the goalie knew which way you were going. Drew wiped sweat from his forehead, glancing over with surprise. It was mid-March, 2 weeks since Garrett had made his way to Portland. This marked the initial practice he had participated in. Did you play? Drew inquired, jogging over. College team at Stanford? Nothing serious? Garrett shrugged. Your instincts surpass what I once had. Drew appeared to reflect on this for a moment before giving a nod. Mom typically has to work during practices. However, she always makes it to the games. I would like to witness one, Garrett remarked. There's a match on Saturday. After practice, they drove back to Leanna's house in an uncomfortable silence. Garrett had rented a car, yet he was still figuring out his way around Portland. Your brothers are quite distinct from you, he noted. Drew scoffed. Understatement. Caleb spends his entire day immersed in books. Liam organizes bathroom breaks, while Jesse captures it all on film, hardly engaging with anyone other than us. However, you're nearly there. We're quadruplets, Drew said. As if that clarified it all. Perhaps it did. At the house, Garrett discovered Caleb at the dining table, enveloped by a sea of research papers. What are you working on? He asked. Caleb glanced upward, taken aback by the unexpected curiosity. Urban Sustainability Frameworks. Portland is engaging in some groundbreaking efforts with rainwater management. Do you mind if I take a look? Garrett settled into his seat. For the next hour, they delved into environmental engineering concepts. Garrett found himself impressed by Caleb's grasp of the subject. Does your company do something similar in Singapore? Caleb inquired. The vertical garden water filtration system? Caleb shrugged, acknowledging the research done on his company. We've always known who you were. Later, Garrett discovered Liam in the kitchen, orchestrating dinner with precision, utilizing 4 cutting boards, each color-coded for various ingredients. Need assistance? Garrett suggested. You can cut these, Liam said, passing him the vegetables. Precisely half-inch cubes, if you please. Garrett arched an eyebrow but acquiesced. You're quite meticulous. Someone has to be, Liam replied. Sometimes, Mom has to stay late at work. Drew had a penchant for cereal, enjoying it at every meal. Caleb neglects meals while immersed in his research. And what about Jesse? He let out a deep breath. Jesse would thrive on imagination and turmoil. Where is Jesse? Garrett noticed that he hadn't laid eyes on his 4th son all day. Backyard studio, Liam mentioned. Mom transformed the garden shed when he became serious about filmmaking. After dinner, Garrett made his way to the backyard. The converted shed boasted excellent lighting and soundproofing. Inside, Jesse sat hunched over a computer, meticulously refining the footage. He remained focused on his task as Garrett walked in. Are you working on something intriguing? What did Garrett inquire? Jesse's reaction was to crank up his music. Garrett made another attempt. Your brothers said you're the one behind the camera. What brings you here, truly? Jesse finally inquired, taking off his headphones. 2 weeks of playing dad. Is this some sort of midlife crisis? I'm just trying to connect with my sons. We managed perfectly well for 15 years without you, Jesse challenged. Now all of a sudden we matter. What shifted? Before Garrett could respond, his phone began to ring. Valencia Martinez, his chief operating officer, was reaching out regarding Tokyo. Once more, the deal was at a standstill without him. I have to take this. Garrett moved outside. Naturally, you would, Jesse murmured. 20 minutes later, Garrett returned to find Jesse filming the sunset, using an expensive camera with professional lenses. That's serious equipment, Garrett observed. I saved for 3 years, Jesse said, her gaze fixed elsewhere. Worked weekends at the coffee shop down the street. Remarkable commitment. Some of us actually keep our promises, Jesse replied with a sharp tone. From the kitchen window, Leanna observed their exchange. When Garrett returned indoors, she was there, waiting. He's the hardest challenge to overcome, she remarked. I observed, Garrett exhaled. Leanna, there's a question I must pose. The quadruplets, the fascination of the medical community. Was that the reason you never reached out to me? Were you afraid I'd take advantage of them somehow? Leanna paused. The boys aren't merely quadruplets, Garrett. They're the outcome of an extraordinarily rare natural phenomenon. The doctors wished to observe them throughout their entire childhood. I didn't want them to grow up as mere subjects of scientific interest. She paused. And yes, I was concerned they might end up being used as publicity tools for Thorne Innovation's prodigious founder. The message was unmistakable. She hadn't merely kept the boys from him. She had been safeguarding them. The following morning, Garrett conducted a video call with his executive team from the comfort of his hotel room. Their patience was wearing thin. The board is asking questions, Garrett, Valencia remarked. 2 weeks without any explanation other than a family emergency won't be acceptable for much longer. I require additional time, Garrett asserted. The Portland Renewable Energy Campus Initiative. Let's speed that up. I'll be based here for the foreseeable future. This isn't characteristic of you, Valencia frowned. What is truly happening? Garrett thought about revealing everything to her, but ultimately held back. The boys were entitled to their privacy until they chose to share. Just trust me, he insisted instead. This is important. After ending the call, Garrett stared out the hotel window at the Portland skyline. For 15 years, his company had been everything. Now, all at once, it seemed less important compared to 4 teenage boys who carried his genetic legacy, yet recognized him only as an unfamiliar face. He had overlooked their whole existence, while constructing a kingdom that now appeared empty. His phone chimed with a message from Drew. Games at 2 p.m. Saturday. if you're truly committed to coming. Garrett couldn't help but smile as he replied, I will be present. Hold that angle a bit longer, Jesse instructed. Camera focused on the soccer field where Drew was practicing penalty kicks. The lighting is just right at this moment. You've captured me kicking balls 1,000 times, Drew complained, yet he took his position once more. This is unlike anything else, Jesse insisted. I'm documenting the transformation you've undergone since Dash. He halted suddenly as he spotted Garrett coming closer. Since I arrived? Garrett concluded, his hands tucked into his pockets. It was late March, almost a month since the encounter at the airport. Garrett had transitioned from his hotel to a short-term rental, situated closer to the family's home. Today, he had come to watch Drew practice, not anticipating that Jesse would be there too. I'm documenting my brothers, Jesse said, deliberately turning the camera away from Garrett. It's a lengthy endeavor. May I take a look at some of it? What did Garrett inquire? It's private. Drew rolled his eyes. He's been capturing our lives on film since forever. It escalated when we hit 13. Everything transformed into a fourfold experience for him. Jesse gathered his gear. I have to head home and revise. After he departed, Drew offered an apologetic shrug. He'll come around eventually. Later that evening, Garrett received a call from Liana. Could you come by? There's an issue with Jesse's editing software. He has a project deadline tomorrow. When Garrett arrived, he found Jesse staring furiously at a computer screen, Caleb and Liam hovering nearby, offering unhelpful suggestions. What's happening? What did Garrett inquire? Final Cut keeps crashing, Jesse muttered. I'm losing footage. Do you mind if I take a look? Garrett asked as he pulled up a chair. I used to handle video production for our initial product launches. Jesse paused for a moment, then relinquished his seat. Garrett scrutinized the system, pinpointing the issue swiftly. Your scratch disk is full, and you have corrupted preview files, he clarified. Allow me to demonstrate the solution. For the next hour, they collaborated closely, Garrett guiding Jesse in optimizing the software. As they revitalized the project, Garrett glimpsed the footage, intimate moments of the quadruplets' daily lives, captured with beauty. This is truly impressive, Garrett remarked earnestly. You possess a keen artistic vision. It's merely a school assignment, Jesse replied quietly. Yet Garrett sensed a trace of pride. What is the central idea? Jesse paused. How four identical individuals become distinct. He pointed to one clip, displaying all four brothers in the same frame. Everyone perceives us as duplicates, but we are not. I'm attempting to convey that. That's quite deep indeed, Garrett remarked. For the first time, Jesse looked directly at him without hostility. Thanks for fixing the software. Anytime. After Jesse went upstairs, Liana joined Garrett in the kitchen. That was the most extended civil exchange you both have engaged in. A little progress, Garrett smiled. Liana, I've been wanting to know, would you join me for dinner tomorrow? Just us. There's a lot we should talk about. The next evening, they sat in a quiet restaurant downtown, away from curious teenage ears. You've really outdone yourself with them, Garrett remarked. I often reflect on how different my life might have turned out if I had been aware. Would it truly? Liana inquired softly. You were incredibly focused, Garrett. When I discovered I was expecting, your startup had just landed its initial round of funding. You were putting in endless hours. I might have been able to adapt. Might you? She smiled with a hint of sorrow. The man I once knew couldn't have possibly built Thorn Innovations while also raising quadruplets. Perhaps one route would have endured hardship. Garrett remained quiet, pondering this. Things have changed now. The company operates independently without my constant oversight. And that's why you're here, Liana nodded. The timing is finally right for you. What about you? Garrett inquired. Do you have any regrets? Liana twirled her wine glass. Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice keeping them from you. but seeing them grow into the young men they are. She shrugged. I would choose the same path once more. There's something else I need to share with you, she continued. I've received an offer for a role leading an international climate research initiative in Washington, D.C. Garrett stood still. You're relocating. What about the boys? That's the question, isn't it? Liana let out a sigh. They were about to begin their junior year. It's quite a challenge to expect them to part ways with their school friends and everything they know. What are you saying? I'm weighing my options, she replied thoughtfully, including the chance that they could remain in Portland. If there was a parent here who wanted to be involved, the unspoken tension lingered in the air. Back at his rental house that night, Garrett found himself unable to sleep. The dialogue with Liana echoed in his thoughts. Could he truly embrace the role of a father after 15 years away? Did he even possess the knowledge to do so? A message from Jesse lit up his phone. If you're truly committed to assisting, I require input on the rough cut. Keep this from my brothers. Attached was a video file, the initial thing Jesse had willingly shared with him. Garrett watched it immediately, moved by the raw, honest portrayal of 4 identical boys navigating their unique identities. In the concluding segment, Jesse showcased recent footage of their reactions to Garrett's unexpected arrival in their lives. The film concluded with a lingering question. What occurs when the elusive fragment finally reveals itself? Garrett gazed at the screen long after it faded to black, the question resonating in his thoughts. And this is where the magic happens, Garrett said, guiding the quadruplets into his sleek San Francisco office. Floor-to-ceiling windows provided sweeping vistas of the bay, while sleek furniture and state-of-the-art technology highlighted Thorne Innovation's leadership in sustainable technology. It was mid-April, a time of renewal and adventure for the boys. Garrett had extended an invitation for them to explore his world, aiming to connect their disparate lives. Wow, Caleb exclaimed, as he scrutinized the prototype displays. Is that the new microscale battery technology one came across? Indeed it is, Garrett affirmed with a nod. We're finalizing testing phases. Drew wandered restlessly around the executive suite, while Liam inspected Garrett's meticulously organized desk. Only Jesse seemed unimpressed, filming everything with a critical eye. Pretty empty for a headquarters, Jesse commented. Where is everyone? Lower floors, Garrett explained. Engineering, design, marketing. I enjoy the tranquility of this place. You mean isolation, Jesse muttered. Valencia Martinez appeared in the doorway, curiosity evident on her face. For weeks she'd been handling the company's operations without explanation for Garrett's absence. This must be the family emergency, she remarked, connecting the dots as she gazed at the 4 identical teenagers. Valencia, this is Drew, Caleb, Liam, and Jesse, Garrett introduced. My sons. The phrase still felt foreign on his lips, a mix of fear and thrill. Valencia maintained an unwavering professional composure. Well, that clarifies things, she said as she turned to the boys. Your father has been rather preoccupied lately. We only met him a month ago, Drew explained. He had no idea we were even around before that. Valencia's eyebrows arched in surprise. Maybe we should revisit the Tokyo situation later, she suggested, stepping back with grace. Do all your colleagues look that astonished when they see us? Liam inquired. You're the first individuals from my personal life they've encountered, Garrett confessed. I have consistently maintained a clear boundary between my professional responsibilities and my personal life. What personal life? Jesse challenged. Before Garrett could respond, his assistant appeared. Mr. Thorne, there's a situation downstairs. A reporter is inquiring about the 4 identical teenagers seen entering the building. There's something intriguing about the Thorne quadruplets. Garrett's expression shifted to one of concern. How did they? Someone must have given them a heads up when we got here, Caleb suggested. For identical kids with the famous Garrett Thorne is quite striking. This is precisely what Mom dreaded, Jesse remarked. Garrett acted swiftly. Take the executive elevator down to the parking garage. A driver will escort you back to the hotel. I'll take care of this. Once the boys had exited quietly, Garrett faced the reporter. A responsibility he usually assigned to PR. This time it felt deeply personal. My family is not to be touched, he declared with conviction. Any narrative concerning my children will lead to swift legal repercussions. Later that evening, in the presidential suite of the Four Seasons, Garrett discovered the boys engrossed in news coverage of the event. Tech mogul Garrett Thorne addresses family speculation, the headline proclaimed. This is what Mom was trying to prevent, Liam remarked. Now everyone is aware. I apologize, Garrett stated. I ought to have exercised more caution. His phone chimed. Leanna. She had caught sight of the news. They were bound to be discovered eventually, she said after Garrett explained. At least you protected their privacy as much as possible. Leanna, about your Washington position, I've been thinking. What if the boys stayed with me in Portland while you're in D.C.? I could buy a house near their school, maintain their routine. There was a long pause. Are you serious about this, Garrett? Being a full-time parent isn't like running a company. You can't delegate the hard parts. I know, he said, but I want to try. They deserve that much. When he returned to the living room, the boys were huddled in conversation. They fell silent as he entered. We've been having discussions, Drew declared, regarding Mom's job offer and your proposal. We have certain conditions, Jesse interjected, if we are to contemplate this co-parenting arrangement. Garrett took a seat. I'm all ears. First, Liam began, we want both of you at important events. No work excuses. Second, Caleb continued, we should have regular family dinners at least 3 times a week when we're with either of you. Third, Drew added, you both need to genuinely talk to each other instead of relying on us. And fourth, Jesse concluded, this isn't merely a fun project for you to walk away from when it becomes challenging. We need commitment. Garrett looked at these 4 young men, so different and yet so clearly siblings, and felt a swell of pride mingled with regret for all the years lost. Those seem like fair terms, he concurred. I can promise you this. I'm not going anywhere. The next day, as they flew back to Portland, Garrett received an email from his real estate agent. A property had become available in the boys' neighborhood. Simultaneously, Valencia sent preliminary plans for the Portland Innovation Campus. For the first time, his 2 worlds were coming together. Looking at his sleeping sons spread across the private jet's cabin, Garrett realized his definition of success had fundamentally shifted. The empire he'd built now seemed merely a foundation for something far more meaningful, the family he never knew he wanted. Whose shirts are these? Garrett inquired, holding up 4 identical blue button-downs, still encased in plastic. Mine? Drew, Caleb, and Liam replied in unison as they shifted boxes into Garrett's newly acquired Portland residence. Jesse rolled his eyes behind his camera. You all wanted the same shirt. Garrett appeared puzzled. Mom purchases essentials in large quantities, Liam clarified. It's more efficient. However, we give them a different style, Caleb remarked. I like to add layers with sweaters. I roll the sleeves, Drew demonstrated. And I avoid them entirely, Jesse muttered. Still filming. It was early May, 2 months after the airport encounter that had changed everything. Garrett's Portland house, a beautifully restored craftsman situated close to Leanna's, was slowly transforming into a true home. The bookshelves brimmed with engineering texts for Caleb, sports biographies for Drew, organizational systems for Liam, and film studies for Jesse. Is this truly occurring? Garrett turned to Leanna as they observed the boys bickering about their bedroom assignments upstairs. It seems that way, she smiled. Yet, I still find myself in moments of disbelief. The Washington, D.C. position was scheduled to commence on August 1st, allowing them just under 3 months to create routines before the boys would alternate their time between parents. Leanna would visit Portland monthly, and the boys would spend holidays and parts of summer in D.C., We need a calendar system, Liam announced, returning with a color-coded chart. Red for Portland days, blue for DC days, purple for travel. Already on it, Garrett revealed the digital family management system his tech team had developed. It syncs with everyone's phones. Of course you made an app for this, Jesse commented, though he appeared to be impressed despite his own reservations. That evening, they convened for their inaugural family dinner in Garrett's newly adorned dining room. The dialogue unfolded with surprising ease, punctuated only by brief moments of awkward silence. Our birthday is next weekend, Drew noted. Sweet 16. We know, Leanna said with a smile. We've been strategizing. Are both of you involved? Caleb inquired with a hint of hesitation. Yes, Garrett confirmed. Your mom and I have been coordinating. The boys exchanged surprised glances. What? Garrett inquired. You're actually adhering to our guidelines, Jesse remarked. Engaging with one another, family dinners. We're making an effort, Leanna replied quietly. 2 weeks later, on July 14, 2025, the boys' 16th birthday came. The festivities unfolded in Garrett's backyard, adorned with lights, music, and food stations, each tailored to the boys' preferred dishes. Friends from school arrived, initially gawking at Garrett before the excitement of the party took over. The quadruplets moved through the crowd as individuals rather than a unit. Drew mingled with his soccer teammates, Caleb chatted with science club members, Liam organized the gift table, and Jesse documented everything. They lead distinct lives now, Leanna noted, standing next to Garrett. It wasn't always like this. In their youth, they were always together. Evolving into who they are, Garrett acknowledged. You accomplished that, Leanna. You allowed them the freedom to grow into their own selves, she said. And now you'll guide them as they move forward on that path. As the celebration came to a close, Garrett gathered everyone for the final surprise. 4 identical small boxes. These aren't your main presents, he explained. Those will arrive later. But I wanted to present you with something meaningful today. Inside each box lay a key, attached to a personalized keychain. Here are the keys to both houses, Garrett explained. Portland and the new location in DC. Wherever we are, you always have a home with us. Later that night, after the guests had departed and Leanna had driven the tired birthday boys home, Garrett found himself sitting alone on his porch. A message from Jesse lit up his phone screen. Please take a moment to check your email. The message included a video file named Found a Documentary. The movie commenced with scenes from the airport. In an unexpected twist, Jesse managed to seize the instant when Garrett first laid eyes on them at San Francisco International. It intricately intertwined the narrative of the past 3 months, featuring clumsy initial encounters, hesitant bonds, challenges, and moments of triumph. The concluding scene captured all 6 of them at the birthday celebration, coming together for a family photograph. The lens held steady on their expressions. Once unfamiliar, now teetering on the edge of ease, yet undeniably intertwined. The film concluded with Jesse's narration. Family transcends mere genetic connections. It's about being present, enduring through challenges, and making the conscious decision to support one another daily. At times, the bonds of family can feel distant. At times, it resurfaces. At times, it emerges from the ground up in the most surprising manners. As the screen dimmed into darkness, Garrett became aware of the tears streaming down his face. For 15 years, he had crafted an empire of technology and innovation. Yet in just 3 fleeting months, for teenage boys and their mother had shown him how to create something far more precious and infinitely more complex. A family. Once more, his phone vibrated with a notification. Jesse, try to stay composed. It's merely an assignment for school. Garrett's smile broke through his tears as he began to type a response. It's exceptional. Your brilliance shines through. 3 dots flickered on the screen as Jesse crafted a reply, vanished for a moment, then returned once more. At last, I want to express my gratitude, Dad. It marked the inaugural moment when any of them had referred to him in that way. Garrett gazed at the word, seemingly straightforward yet deeply significant. Beyond his window, the Portland summer night buzzed with potential. For the first time in his life, Garrett Thorne found his future shaped not by business deals or tech advancements, but by the intricate, chaotic, and beautiful journey of becoming a father. 1 year later, Flight 1372 to Washington, D.C. is now inviting all zones to board. Garrett glanced at his watch while the announcement reverberated throughout Portland International Airport. It has been a year to the day since that fateful meeting that transformed everything. Have you gathered all that you need? He inquired of the quadruplets, who had grown self-assured enough to distinguish each other at first sight. Drew stood with an athletic posture, while Caleb always had a book in hand. Liam meticulously inspected his neatly packed carry-on, and Jesse sported a camera bag casually draped over his shoulder. This is the third time we've embarked on this journey, Dad, Drew pointed out. We understand the routine. Just checking, Garrett smiled, relishing the easy familiarity with which they now referred to him as Dad. Months had passed before all four embraced the term consistently, with Jesse being the final holdout. Liam checked his phone and relayed, Mom said she's at baggage claim. The preparations for the climate summit are progressing smoothly. The previous year had revealed itself in manners that none of them could have foreseen. Liana's efforts in Washington have captured global interest, leading multiple nations to embrace her climate adaptation suggestions. Garrett had triumphantly launched the Portland Innovation Campus, enabling him to stay near the boys while propelling his company's sustainable technology efforts forward. Above all, they had discovered a harmonious flow as a family. The boys divided their time between the two cities at consistent intervals. Each journey brings a smoother transition. Video calls bridged the gap during their separations, while both Garrett and Liana often journeyed to be present at significant occasions. Garrett reminded Caleb that the science competition is just 3 weeks away. I've freed up my calendar, and my documentary is set to screen at the Student Film Festival next month, Jesse mentioned. In D.C., I've already secured my flight, Garrett assured him. Jesse persisted in chronicling the unfolding narrative of their family. The initial film had blossomed into a series that explored their unique partnership, earning a Regional Youth Filmmaker Award. Final boarding call for Flight 1772 to Washington, D.C. That's us, Liam declared. It's time for us to leave. The farewell was now rehearsed, free from the tension of past partings. After 2 weeks with Liana, it's time to return to Portland and kick off their senior year. Mom mentioned that the junior prom photos brought her to tears. Drew remarked, adjusting his backpack on his shoulders. I'll tidy up nicely when necessary, Garrett conceded, recalling the evening he had assisted 4 hesitant teenagers with their ties and boutonnieres. As they got ready to board, Jesse lingered for a moment. He handed Garrett a thumb drive, saying, I finished editing the 1-year retrospective. Hold off on watching it until we're out of the picture. It's quite overly sentimental. Garrett acknowledged it with a nod, wishing for a safe flight and reminding to call upon landing. He lingered at the gate, observing as his sons vanished into the jetway. A year prior, he had been an isolated presence, entirely absorbed in the pursuit of expanding his dominion. His existence was now defined by school events, family dinners, and airport reunions. Later that evening, in the stillness of the house, Garrett connected Jesse's thumb drive. The movie opened with split-screen visuals. Their initial clumsy days together stood in stark contrast to the recent warm family moments they now share. Jesse's voice wove through the visuals. People discuss family as if it's an inherent part of existence. At times, that holds true. Yet there are moments when family is crafted gradually, bit by bit, with each passing day. It appears during challenging times. It is the act of letting go. It's the reunion after a long time apart and the decision to start anew. The concluding scene depicted all 6 of them during the Christmas celebration. Garrett, Liana, and the boys came together in the DC house, their laughter filling the air as they tried to capture a family photo using a timer. They repeatedly overlooked the countdown, leading to a flurry of indistinct, chaotic images before ultimately seizing one flawless moment of them together. As Jesse's voice faded over the scene, he emphasized that this isn't a tale of a millionaire discovering his long-lost sons. It revolves around 6 individuals who start as strangers and evolve into something deeper. It's about reshaping the essence of family and the future we continue to build together, one day at a time. As the screen dimmed to darkness, Garrett picked up his phone and fired off a group text to all 5 of them. I already feel your absence. Home feels incomplete in your absence. The replies arrived promptly. Leanna, they have reached their destination without any issues. Already rummaging through my refrigerator. Drew, 2 weeks will pass in the blink of an eye. Caleb, I'm currently preparing my project presentation to share with you when we return. Liam has placed the schedule on the fridge. The dog is fed promptly at 6 p.m. Jesse, I see you caught that. I mentioned it had a sentimental quality. Garrett beamed at the screen before placing his phone down to attend to the rescue dog they had welcomed into their home 6 months prior. A collective choice made by the family. As he strolled through the home brimming with signs of adolescent boys, sports gear, books, film equipment, and neatly organized storage bins, he pondered the profound transformation his life had undergone. The empire he had constructed continued to flourish, yet it had transformed into a tool rather than a goal. His most significant accomplishment wasn't defined by technological innovations or financial gains, but by the connections he continued to cultivate, one airport reunion at a time.